God who loves us and calls us to respond. Amen. Please be seated. It's good to see you. So, I'm going to wander a little bit, but I'm going to start with a little bit of gratitude. I was pulling the bulletin together, and the musician who was going to substitute for Gabriel, who had planned long ago to be away this weekend, was unable to do the service. And so I got in touch with Andrew, who's the musician for our 9 o'clock service, the Lutheran service, and I asked him if there was any way that he could be here. He serves another church on Sunday mornings, and he said he thought that their schedule was abridged as well and that he could make it back. So thank you, Andrew, for being here this morning and playing for us. As we were getting back and forth with each other, we were trying to figure out what we would do for the service. At that point, we didn't think we would be in here. We didn't know we had power, and so we thought we'd be outside. And we got any number of pianos that we could pull out, but we were just talking about what music we would do. And I said, well, let's just use the hymns that we've got for the Episcopal service, and then we'll see from there. And so, of course, this also was picked out a long time ago, long before we knew what this weekend would bring. But as I sent him the hymns, I remember the first hymn. The first thing we would say together as we gathered here would be, "O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home." Maybe that's enough for the sermon today, I don't know. It certainly washed over me with a lot more grace than the rain and the wind and eventually the trees that we see down all around us here in town. I thought this paired perfectly with this text that we see in the Gospel of Mark, where Jesus comes in contact with who we sometimes call the rich young ruler. And this man of perfect obedience, blameless before the law, comes and says to Jesus that he has done all of the right things. He's done everything that you could do, check every box about the faithful way of living. And Jesus says, okay, you lack one thing. And the thing that he lacks is everything that he has. Jesus tells him to go and sell all of his possessions and give everything to the poor. As I watched my girls sleep on Wednesday night, I think I'd have probably sold anything to make sure that they were okay. Every time Cresta would take a step towards the side of the house where trees could fall, I'd get here. Come back here. Stay over here. And I convinced myself that I had a super spider sense. That if I thought a tree was coming, I could jump over the girls and I could protect them. Like many of you, we made it through okay. But I wonder if in those moments you had to confront some version of this question that Jesus is confronting with this young, wealthy man. And that question is, whose are we? Whose are we? In times of disaster, we come in touch most closely with who we are and what we care about and what gives us meaning and purpose and hope. And I'll venture to say that we first reached for each other. Of course, in the days after, we've longed for the return of power and of water. We've longed for the next step, the essentials of what we need to continue living our daily life. Some of us being called back to work, maybe sooner than we were ready to go, and others who haven't stopped working from the moment the storm hit. Those things will come. If you have immediate need, we're going to talk about in the announcements how we can help. But I don't want you to let go of that impulse. That in the midst of the storm, in the midst of the threat of the disaster, you were likely thinking about someone else and not something else. And I think that matters. I think that matters. So in the coming days and weeks, and certainly probably months, and by God, I attended a meeting where they just had finished some construction from January of 2017, 2 weeks before the storm hit. We'll have an opportunity to be reminded of, as a community, how it is that we continue to reach to someone else and not for something else, even if that means selling our possessions and giving them to the poor. O God, our help in ages past, read our scriptures today. Part of the history of what it means to be the people of God is to go through the cycle of the valley and to come through to resurrection. Not a generation after the disciples lost their someone, their everything in Jesus. The center of their former religious life, the temple, was completely destroyed and burned. And it was the early church responding to the needs of people, community, that grew and built itself up. They didn't need a temple because, as we came to know in Scripture, they were the temple. So we're now going through that valley. Storms have come through. We're all in different places in that. And yet, here you are, all together. In the coming days, we as Christians have the unique vocation to point to resurrection, to point to this God who has been our help in ages past, who has shielded us and who is our eternal home. And we will, in the face of resurrection, rebuild. And we will continue to reach out to others. And we will be known again, this community, by our love. I don't have all the answers. Most of the time it's a good thing that I can talk about the currencies of the gospel that have no limit. Mercy and grace and compassion and love. And now it's time to infuse ourselves and our souls and our generosity with those values as we bear witness and help our brothers and sisters in need here in town and across Southwest Georgia. It's good to see you. I love you, and let's continue to bear witness to this resurrection that is our hope.